Hi y'all, welcome back to my YouTube channel. I am still reading Genesis and I'm on chapter 44, so that is what we're gonna do. And I'm honestly just reading all of this in one sitting, so I'm just gonna kind of continue from the previous video that I just posted. But if you're new to this channel or seeing this video for the first time, I just want to welcome you, and I'm just passionate about the Bible and teaching scripture because I didn't have anybody really teach me the importance of saying in the Bible and saying in your word and just having a relationship with Christ. So that is why I'm here, and not to be like super fast, but I'm just going to go ahead and start reading. So chapter 44. When his brothers were ready to leave, Joseph gave these instructions to his palace manager. Fill each of their sacks with as much grain as they can carry, and put each man's money back into his sack. Then put my personal silver cup at the top of the youngest brother's sack, along with the money for his grain. So the manager did as Joseph instructed him. The brothers were up at dawn and were sent on their journey with their loaded donkeys. But when they had gone only a short distance and were barely out of the city, Joseph said to his palace manager, "Chase after them and stop them. When you catch up with them, ask them, 'Why have you repaid my kindness with such evil? Why have you stolen my master's silver cup which he uses to predict the future? What a wicked thing you have done.'" When the palace manager caught up with the men, he spoke to them as he had been instructed. "What are you talking about?" the brothers responded. "We are your servants and would never do such a thing. Didn't we return the money we found in our sacks? We brought it back all the way from the land of Canaan. Why would we steal silver or gold from your master's house? If you find his cup with any one of us, let that man die, and all the rest of us, my lord, will be your slaves." "That's fair," the man replied, "but the one who stole the cup will be my slave. The rest of you may go free." They all quickly took their sacks from the back of their donkeys and opened them. The palace manager searched for the brothers' sacks from the oldest to the youngest, and the cup was found in Benjamin's sack. When the brothers saw this, they tore their clothing in despair. Then they loaded their donkeys again and returned to the city. Joseph was still in his palace when Judah and his brothers arrived, and they fell to the ground before him. "What have you done?" Joseph demanded. "Don't you know that a man like me can predict the future?" Judah answered, "Oh, my lord, what can we say to you? How can we explain this? How can we prove our innocence? God is punishing us for our sins. My lord, we have all returned to be your slaves, all of us, not just our brother who had your cup in his sack." "No," Joseph said, "I would never do such a thing. Only the man who stole the cup will be my slave. The rest of you may go back to your father in peace." So this is a big deal. One, because we know that Joseph planted the cup there. Benjamin didn't steal the cup. And also, we also know that the brothers have to bring Benjamin back home to their father Jacob, or Jacob basically was, sorry, I kicked it. Jacob was basically like, "I'm gonna die from like grief if this just like keeps happening to him." So now, like, all the brothers are basically like, "Okay, well, we'll all be your slaves." Like, they're trying to figure out a way to somehow make this better. And I just think of all the mental anguish and just like, all this is happening and they are going to another place to get food for their families. So it's like all this is happening on top of the stress of like not having food, not feeding your family, especially as a guy, like men are supposed to provide, like, you know, and that has to be like, it's only funny because I'm not, it's not funny, but I'm like laughing because I know the outcome, but it's like, that has to be a super stressful situation. And on top of like their families and like not having food, like the thought of them having to go back home and like now their dad having to deal with grief in other ways. So, verse 18, then Judah stepped forward and said, "Please, my lord, let your servant say just one word to you. Please do not be angry with me, even though you are as powerful as Pharaoh himself. My lord, previously you asked us, your servants, 'Do you have a father or brother?' And we responded, 'Yes, my lord, we have a father who is an old man, and his youngest son is a child of his old age. His full brother is dead, and he alone is left of his mother's children, and his father loves him very much. And you said to us, bring him here so I can see him with my own eyes. But we said to you, my lord, the boy cannot leave his father, for his father would die. But you told us, unless your youngest brother comes with you, you will never see my face again. So we returned to your servant, our father, and told him what you had said. Later, when he said, go back again and buy us more food, we replied, we can't go unless you let our younger brother go with us, and we'll never get to see the man's face unless our younger brother is with us. Then my father said to us, as you know, my wife had 2 sons, and one of them went away and never returned. Doubtless he was torn to pieces by some wild animal. I have never seen him since. Now, if you take his brother away from me, and any harm comes to him, you will send this grieving white-haired man to his grave. And now, my lord, I cannot go back to my father without the boy. Our father's life is bounded up in the boy's life. If he sees that the boy is not with us, our father will die. We, your servants, will indeed be responsible for sending that grieving white-haired man to the grave. My lord, I guaranteed to my father that I would take care of the boy. I told him, if I don't bring him back to you, I will bear the blame forever. So please, my lord, let me stay here as a slave instead of the boy, and let the boy return with his brothers. For how can I return to my father if the boy is not with me? I couldn't bear to see the anguish this would cause my father. So I have to say that is a very sacrificial thing to say, given the circumstances. I think I'm crooked. But also, this entire time, these guys were just trying to continue to tell Joseph, like, oh, we're honest men. Oh, we're honest men. And they're not the same men as they were before. Like, they're not the same men as... they're not the same men that Joseph met or knew in a previous time of his life. So they have, not excusing what they did in the past, but they have more than proven themselves like trustworthy and honest and sacrificial, and they've gone back and forth from city to city, and you know, they've gotten this brother and they're like, hey, well, we have to bring him back or my dad's gonna die, take me instead. Like, it's just a very different way to think of these men, Joseph's brothers, compared to just their attitudes and their mindsets, like in chapter 37, when they were jealous of Joseph and upset and hated him because his father loved him the most. So you have to also think too, like, knowing that your father may love us another. I'm an only child, so I cannot, I guess, like relate, but I guess I could. But knowing that your father or like a parent may love another child more than you, that's a very hard thing to carry, like to realize, like that can't be easy. So I just try to put myself in everyone's shoes as best as I can when I read, because it's very easy to see certain things from a different perspective, but you kind of have to force yourself to put yourself in the other person's shoes. Chapter 45. Okay, I'm gonna take a sip of coffee because I just am. And it's cold, but the next video I'm gonna microwave it. Okay, so chapter 45. Joseph could stand it no longer. Mind you, he knows who these people are, and he's just like tormenting them, and not, you know, you get what I'm saying. Like, he's just like not telling them that he knows who they are. And I'm sure for him too, like, he can see that they've actually changed. So, okay, we're gonna keep reading. Joseph could stand it no longer. There were many people in the room, and he said to his attendants, all of you, out, all of you. So he was alone with his brothers when he told them who he was. Then he broke down and wept. He wept so loudly the Egyptians could hear him, and word of it quickly carried to Pharaoh's palace. I am Joseph, he said to his brothers. Is my father still alive? But his brothers were speechless. They were stunned to realize that Joseph was standing in front of them. Please come closer, he said to them. So they came closer, and he said again, I am Joseph, your brother, whom you sold into slavery in Egypt. But don't be upset, and don't be angry with yourselves for selling me to this place. Y'all, super full circle moment. He's not trying to make them feel guilty. And he doesn't want them to even feel guilty, because the only reason that his family is alive, the only reason that his family has food and is where they're at currently with everything going on, like with the famine, is because of what they did, is because like everything happened to line this up like perfectly. And I don't know. I don't know how to explain it, because I don't want to be like, oh, everything happens for a reason, because like that's like a super cliche like statement. But at the same time, you can see God's hand in it, because Joseph was anointed and like his brothers were jealous, but at the same time they tried to kill him, right? But Joseph went through all this stuff and now has a status that he has. And it's just beautiful to see that like nobody has any like hate or any ill will towards anybody. And even with Joseph revealing who he is to them, he's like, hey, I'm your brother, don't feel guilty, and I'm not upset with you. Like, he is very direct and like open about like not feeling guilty for the wrongs that they've done in the past. Okay, verse 5. Okay, don't be upset and don't be angry with yourselves for selling me into this place. It was God who sent me here ahead of you to preserve your lives. This famine that has ravaged the land for 2 years will last 5 more years, and there will be neither plowing nor harvesting. God sent me ahead of you to keep you and your families alive and preserve many survivors. So it was God who sent me here, not you. And he is the one who made me an advisor to Pharaoh, the manager of his entire palace and governor of all Egypt. So he's still giving the glory back to God. And I don't know. I think, especially in society now, in like 2024, like it's very easy to say like I. Like we all think that we did these things, but God gets the glory like from this whole situation. Verse 9. Now hurry back to my father and tell him, this is what your son Joseph says. God has made me master over all the land of Egypt. So come down to me immediately. You can live in the region of Goshen, where you can be near me with all of your children and grandchildren, your flocks and herds, and everything you own. I will take care of you there, for there are still 5 years of famine ahead of us. Otherwise, you, your household, and all of your animals will starve. Then Joseph added, look, you can see for yourselves, and so can my brother Benjamin, that I really am Joseph. Go tell my father of my honored position here in Egypt. Describe for him everything you have seen, and then bring my father here quickly. Weeping with joy, he embraced Benjamin, and Benjamin did the same. Then Joseph kissed each of his brothers and wept over them, and after that they began talking freely with him. So like they're so happy they forgot about all the like stuff that they had to go through before, and all of the just not great stuff that they did. Verse 16, the news soon reached Pharaoh's palace. Joseph's brothers have arrived. Pharaoh and his officials were all delighted to hear this. Pharaoh said to Joseph, tell your brothers, this is what you must do. Load your pack animals and hurry back to the land of Canaan. Then get your father and all of your families and return here to me. I will give you, sorry y'all. I will give you the very best land in Egypt, and you will eat from the best that the land produces. Then Pharaoh said to Joseph, tell your brothers, take wagons from the land of Egypt and carry your little children and your wives, and bring your father here. Don't worry about your personal belongings, for the best of all the land of Egypt is yours. So the sons of Jacob did as they were told. Joseph provided them with wagons, and as Pharaoh had commanded, and he gave them the supplies for the journey. He gave each of them new clothes, but to Benjamin he gave 5 changes of clothes and 300 pieces of silver. He also sent his father 10 male donkeys loaded with the finest products of Egypt, and 10 female donkeys loaded with grain and bread and other supplies he would need on his journey. So Joseph sent his brothers off. As they left, he called after them, don't quarrel about this along the way. And they left Egypt and returned to their father Jacob in the land of Canaan. Joseph is still alive, they told him, and he is governor of all the land of Egypt. Jacob was stunned at the news. He couldn't believe it. But when they repeated to Jacob everything Joseph had told them, and when he saw the wagons Joseph had sent to carry him, their father's spirits revived. Then Jacob exclaimed, "It must be true. My son Joseph is alive. I must go see him before I die." That is just like, that's wild, because it's almost like his father's like dying wish, right? Like he was so, I don't know, it's just such a traumatizing story. Like he had to like, his son died, fake death, but his son, he thought his son was dead. Then he had another son be left while they were dealing with the whole like famine thing. Then he had to bring the other son that was left back. It's like he just has gone through so much, and like everybody has. And to see this family that was broken apart now basically be like just glorifying God and like giving God all the glory and praise, and like seeing them come back together is absolutely beautiful. And like Joseph's like, don't argue about this on the way home, like just go get my dad. Like it's just a very like beautiful, I guess, like story to think about. Let's see. So okay, so I am going to, let's see. Okay, I'm going to read chapter 46. So Jacob set out for Egypt with all of his possessions, and when he came to Beersheba, he offered sacrifices to the God of his father Isaac. During the night, God spoke to him in a vision. "Jacob, Jacob," he called. "Here I am," Jacob replied. "I am God, the God of your father," the voice said. "Do not be afraid to go down to Egypt, for there I will make your family into a great nation. I will go with you down to Egypt, and I will bring you back again. You will die in Egypt, but Joseph will be with you to close your eyes." So Jacob left Beersheba and took his sons, and his sons took him to Egypt. They carried him and their little ones and their wives in the wagons Pharaoh had provided for them. They also took all their livestock and all the personal belongings they had acquired in the land of Canaan. So Jacob and his entire family went to Egypt, sons and grandsons, daughters and granddaughters, all his descendants. These are the names of the descendants of Israel, the sons of Jacob, who went to Egypt. Y'all better be nice to me because I gotta pronounce all these people's names. All right, Reuben. I knew that's why he's the voice of reason, because he's the oldest. That makes way more sense. Reuben was Jacob's oldest son. The sons of Reuben were Hanok, Palu, Hezron, and Carmi. The sons of Simeon were Jemuel, Jamin, Ohad, Jachin, Zohar, and Shaul. Shaul's mother was a Canaanite woman. The sons of Levi were Gershon, Kohath, Merari. The sons of Judah were Onan, Shelah, Perez, and Zerah. Though and Onan had died in the land of Canaan, the sons of Perez were Hezron and Hamul. The sons of Issachar were Tola, Pua, Jashub, and Shimron. I don't know. The sons of Zebulun were Sared, Elon, and Jaleel. These are the sons of Leah and Jacob, who were born in Paddan Aram, in addition to their daughter Dinah. The number of Jacob's descendants, male and female, through Leah was 33. The sons of Gad were Zephron, Haggai, Shunai, Esbon, Eri, Eridai, and Areli. The sons of Asher were Imnah, Ishvi, and Beriah. Their sister was Sarah. Beriah's sons were Heber and Malchil. These were the sons of Zilpah. Hey, can you stop? These are the sons of Zilpah, the servant given to Leah by her father Laban. The number of Jacob's descendants through Zilpah was 16. The sons of Jacob's wife, Rachel, were Joseph and Benjamin. So I just want to stop and like say this, because Joseph and Benjamin, if we're just going to be honest, they were loved like the most, and they also had like the best bond, right? But that I feel like I always get stuck talking about relationships. I would conclude that is because they came from Jacob's wife. Why are we going here? So Joseph's brothers were jealous of Joseph, and Benjamin had a lot of favor when Joseph was giving him extra stuff, gave him more food, gave him more money, etc., because those children came from Jacob's wife. I'm not saying Jacob wasn't perfect. And God did tell him that he was going to have a lot of descendants, which he did. God told Abraham he was going to have a lot of descendants, which he did. However, why are we going here? So it is very important that relationships are done and set up the way that the Lord wants them to be, so that God can bless your families, if that makes sense. And I may not have worded that the best because I don't really like how that sounds, but that is just very important. God has made that very important to me. He has made that very important to, I feel like I've said it on here like every other video somehow. I kind of get into this, but yeah. So verse 20. Joseph's sons born in the land of Egypt were Manasseh and Ephraim. Their mother was Asenath, daughter of Potipharah, the priest of On. Benjamin's sons were Bela, Becher, Ashbel, Gera, Naaman, Ehi, Rosh, Muppim, Huppim, and Ard. These are the sons of Rachel and Jacob. The number of Jacob's descendants through Rachel was 14. The son of Dan was Hushim. The sons of Naphtali were Gaziel, Guni, Jezer, and Shillem. I'm probably saying all these names absolutely wrong. These are the sons of Bilhah, the servant given to Rachel by her father Laban. The number of Jacob's descendants through Bilhah was 7. The total number of Jacob's direct descendants who went with him to Egypt, not counting his sons' wives, was 66. In addition, Joseph had 2 sons who were born in Egypt, so altogether there were 70 members of Jacob's family in the land of Egypt. All right, so it's mind-blowing too that Jacob loved Rachel, but Leah literally had double the children. So not Leah alone, but just like her descendants. So I don't know, y'all. Just anyway, moving on. Verse 28. As they near their destination, Jacob sent Judah ahead to meet Joseph and get directions to the region of Goshen. And when they finally arrived there, Joseph prepared his chariot and traveled to Goshen to meet his father Jacob. When Joseph arrived, he embraced his father and wept, holding him for a long time. Finally, Jacob said to Joseph, "Now I am ready to die, since I have seen your face again and know you're still alive." And Joseph said to his brothers and his entire family, "I will go to Pharaoh and tell him, my brothers and my father's entire family have come to me from the land of Canaan. These men are shepherds, and they raise livestock, and they have brought with them their flocks and herds and everything they own." Then he said, "When Pharaoh calls for you and asks you about your occupation, you must tell him, 'We are servants and have raised livestock all our lives, as our ancestors have always done.' When you tell him this, he will let you live here in the region of Goshen, for the Egyptians despise shepherds." So they get to live in the best land because the Egyptians don't even like shepherds and they don't want them anywhere near them. They wouldn't even sit with them at the table, the other chapter. So Jacob's family is finally here. That is a lot of people that have now moved from Canaan to Egypt. And Jacob gets to see all of his children, all of his family, all together. And it's just, he's on the up and up. So that is going to be all I've got for this video, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.